Hey, everybody. Still grooving on this song. Hang on a minute. All right. Give me Mammon a little tug of the ear. And we can get this show on the road. All right. Let's see who we've got chatting tonight. We got Dade. Hello. The Zine Machine. Mike. And that's everybody. So hello to all of those of you out there lurking. And let's get right into it. Get everybody fed. They've been banging their heads against the side of the fish tank for the last half hour. Every time I walk in the room, I always feel bad coming in here getting ready for the live stream because they know when I come in the evening, it's feeding time. Oh, sorry about that. That's what you get for standing in my way. All right, I'm going to go sprinkle a little bit of food directly in the waterfall. That will take a lot of it down into the water column and make sure the minnows and stuff that live down there get plenty of water. Plenty of food. And we're actually going to have a look in a moment when they're done feeding before we go to the next tank. I want to clear out the muck from the inflow on the pond a little bit and get the water flowing properly through there. Eugene, how are you this evening? Oh, you're not late. The people that come in 5 minutes before we wrap up, they're the ones I think of as coming in late. You're here as I'm still getting started and collecting my thoughts. So don't have anything on the agenda maintenance-wise. I really don't have anything on my agenda fish-wise either. I was thinking about some stuff before I came down and started getting ready for the live stream, but it's not anything I'm going to talk about on the live stream. I did do sit-ups tonight, I'm happy to say. We got a mushroom update. We're going to look at my mycelium at some point. And I did eat the last 5 bars or last 5 squares of my chocolate bar about 20 minutes ago. So I should be in a livelier mood in about an hour. But other than that, I don't really have a whole lot going on. Let's go have a look at the inflow that I'm going to get cleared out. I worked on this a little bit Friday night, but it's clearly still not. Let's see. I don't know how well you can see him or not in there, but there he is. One of those minnows in there is actually getting pretty big. You see those little fast-moving fish in the bottom? It's some of the minnows that are in this tank. I threw a handful of them when I was collecting them out of that tank. If you'll remember, I had about 50 of them in there, and I took a bunch out, and I put them in that 125. There's only one left. They've all slowly jumped out over the months. So there is one survivor in there. But while I was doing that, I just, for the hell of it, threw a handful of them in here. It's maybe a dozen of them. And there's still a bunch swimming around. There he is. There's that big one. You see him right there by the log. So they're doing well. But I want to get this little chunk of muck cleared out here. The water is actually supposed to be flowing over on this end too. And it can't with all that crap in the way. There you go. Of course, now the pond's going to look like that for a while. But we do have the water flowing where I want it to. But of course, the bulk of it still comes right off the front here. So, all right, I don't think we need to get in there and clear out the pump tonight. And there actually is still a little bit of that dragon's tongue. I have that plant. If you missed it the other night, if you see the little plant that's on the other side of this jar, this one right here, it looks like it just got a buzz cut. Well, it did, and all of that plant material got thrown in the pond. There's some of it down there, but a lot of it got pushed up into this corner. And if you notice closely, you'll see that the leaves are getting slowly trimmed down, and all that's really left is the stems and the more, branchy bits of it in there. And that's what the problem is they eat all the leaves, and then the stems just sort of start degrading and getting all mushy, and then they get all stuck to the pump intake, and it slows down the water flow. But I threw a veritable basket of this stuff in there the other night. It's been about a week, though, so I'm really surprised it's lasted as long as it had. I expected it to be gone within a couple of days, but it's still some in there. They're still working on it. All right, let's move on to the goldfish tank. My shrimp tank is actually starting to get a little bit clearer in there. You can see all the shrimp swimming around all over the damn place willy-nilly. I got a message from Ark today. I looked at it briefly, and it appeared to be a tracking notice. So he said he was going to send me some stuff, and he said he had a little sponge filter for me that would go nicely in that little tiny shrimp tank. And so rather than me going out and looking for one or buying one, I went ahead and just am going to wait and see what he sent me. And so hopefully we'll get a little sponge filter to go in that shrimp tank. And if I get a little sponge filter in there, I'm 100% confident that that will completely clear up that cloudy water issue I've been having in there. I just don't think I have enough biological filtration. It is a small tank, and it doesn't have a lot of bioload in it, but it's got a lot of shrimp and it's got a lot of snails, and I do feed it a lot every day, so it's still processing and producing a lot of biological waste. And so I need more biological filtration in there, I think, in order to get that cloudiness to go away for good. Shirley. Oh, that's cool, Mike. Dark Knight, you're here. I was just talking about you. I guess you heard what I said. Bobby, how are you doing? Making sure I don't miss anybody. All right, there I was. You have a few fry from 2 of your new killifish pairs. That's exciting. Oh, well. That's still exciting. All right, I'm all caught up again. Yeah, I was going to try to rig up like a little miniature sponge filter, like cut a sponge filter down and just run an air hose through it or something and see if I can get something like that to work. Because, again, it's a little 5-gallon tank. It doesn't have a lot of room for a significant sponge filter in there. But, again, Ark said he had something small that would probably work. So, if that's even still too big, I could trim that down a little bit. I don't need a lot. I don't have any kind of biological filter material in there. The biological filtration that occurs simply is what's in the tank. The only, I'll show it to you. The only kind of actual filtration I have in the tank is water flow. And then I let the Java moss grow in the filter tray. And so it has to like flow through the Java moss. Now, normally I've trimmed it down, but normally that is just a big mass of Java moss growing in the filter tray right there. And that's it. There's no bio balls or black sponge filter thingy or anything. It's just water flowing, and it just moves around in the tank. And you can see even that it's not a huge amount of water flow. And that's it. That's the only biological filtration I have, other than whatever, biologicals are living in the tank itself. So I think that extra little boost from having a tiny little sponge filter in there will do wonders for it. Honestly, I could even probably just put some gravel or something in there and just let the water flow over the gravel, and eventually the gravel would cycle in, and the little pieces of rocks and whatnot would function as the medium for the biological stuff to grow on. That's all our sponge filters or the little black filter in your hang on the back. That's all it is. That's just real estate. It just provides a place for that bacteria to live. So a handful of sand, coarse sand or some small gravel would do fine. It would just, as long as I left it alone and didn't mess with it, it would develop a, colony of cultures living on it, and that would function as a biological filter. Maybe I'll try that. Sent 3 different sizes of filters. All right, well, we'll find out which one works. Yeah, my other tank down here, the 10-gallon with the big sponge filter in it, that's ideally meant to be a quarantine tank, but it's sort of become a shrimp tank. They feed all over that sponge filter all the time. The bulk of the shrimp can be found on or around the sponge filter. Yeah, I've never had a mouth breeder or mouth brooder either. Yeah, I agree, Dade. I can't wait to see that tank once it's finally cleared up, because it really is a pretty tank. I like the way I scaped it out. I like the plants that are in there. It looks cool as hell with all those shrimp swimming everywhere. It looks like a swarm of insects in a field, but the water just won't clear up. So I think we're coming around the bend on that. Mouth brooding bettas? I never heard of that. I thought they were bubble nesters, but I didn't know that they did mouth brooding. Steve just got home. Nice. Hopefully, Rosie will stop by tonight. On Friday, if you missed it, we took my bag of mycelium on my new mushroom grow, and it was enough in there that I was able to mix it up and spread it around a little bit. But we're going to check it tonight and see how much of a difference that made, and see if it's ready to be mixed up again. And then I also have good news. Tonight was going to be the night I showed everybody the last little vestiges of what was left of my original grow bag, because it was just done. And the other day I even cut into it. It's got a really tough sort of shell on it, but then I took a knife and I slid it, and I couldn't spread it open to look into the middle. I had to actually cut a wedge out of it to see down into the middle. And the middle of the cake, which is no longer really a cake, it's just a shriveled up, it's like a third the size that it started. But it's like really, really fine, powdery sawdust on the inside of it, which I found to be kind of interesting. And so tonight I was going to show everybody, and then we were going to throw it away because it's done. And when I looked at it this afternoon, I've got another mushroom coming off of it, and it's going to be a pretty good size one if it fully develops. I don't know if it's going to, again, it's really on its last leg, so I don't know if it's going to fully develop or not. But even if I cut it down at the size it is now, it's like the size of the top half of my pinky finger, both in length and diameter. And when they're really small like that, they're really, really dense. They sort of get more porous as they grow. So if I cut it down now, it would probably be like 1.5 grams of a really dense, stubby little mushroom. So worst case scenario, I've got one more, if it grows into a full size mushroom, it should be big enough that I'll get 2 more, I'll be able to get, 2 grams off of it or something, and have 2 more little experiences. And this has got to be it. I cannot possibly imagine a 7th flush. This is the 6th flush I've gotten off of that bag now. It's put me well over the 3-ounce mark of dried mushroom, not, fresh cut. They're heavy as hell when they're fresh cut because they're mostly water. But when you're dried, I've gotten over 3 ounces out of that one bag. It's amazing. All right. The wild types are the mouth brooders. That's interesting. I never even knew they did the mouth brooders. Robert, how are you this evening? All right. I think I'm going to do a dab. Or should I light my joint? I think I'll do a dab first. We can save the joint for later because you know how that goes. I even cleaned my glass dab straw nice and pretty for tonight. Looks all fresh and clean. Oh, I also have some weed news. If you'll remember, I said that my Super Silver Haze that I harvested recently had self-seeded. Give me a moment here. I got a nice little handful of seeds out of it. And of course, I saved them. But when a plant self-seeds, it's not always viable seeds. So I planted one. It didn't even look like a particularly fat, good one. I just grabbed the first one I grabbed and I planted it to see what would happen. And today I checked, and sure enough, it has sprouted. So I now have a whole shit ton of Super Silver Haze seeds that I didn't have before. I was running low. I only had a couple seeds left. I was going to start making cuttings, but now I don't have to. I can just do every single one from a fresh seed. And again, I've got a couple dozen seeds now. And that one I've got hanging in the other room, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's a Skittles, but I'm not positive. That one apparently is self-seeded too, so I can collect some of those and get some more Skittles seeds. Definitely one of the benefits of doing... Rosie, you are here. I was hoping you'd show up tonight. We're going to have a look at my mushroom bag. The farthest I ever made it, Mike, was 3 days. And I think by the 3rd day, I was seeing wrigglers. And then again, they vanished overnight. The wrigglers never made it. All right, Rosie, you missed it on Friday night. I took my mushroom bag and we looked at it. We saw the mycelium was starting to spread around a little bit. So we mushed it around and mixed it up a little. And so tonight we're going to check it and to see if I've got any more mycelial growth. I realized that you don't have to do it the way it was, told to me, where you wait 2 weeks and then you get this big lump of mycelium and then you break that up and mix it around. As soon as you've got a solid amount of, noticeable mycelium, you can start spreading it around. Mix it up a little bit just to spread it around from that initial spot. Give it a 3 or 4 days and you'll see the growth starting to spread. Mix that around, give it a few more days, and just do that until the bag is fully mixed. And then you let it sit for, a little bit, and eventually it will become the full cake. And then you can start fruiting it. So again, we're going to have a look tonight and see if that's ready to be mixed around again. I suspect it probably will be. All right, while you're all thinking of something to say, I'm going to spark this joint up. My wife was on vacation all last week, and so she was staying up late. Now we're back to the normal schedule because she goes back to work tomorrow. And it's just, I was thinking about it coming downstairs. It's weird. I went upstairs right before we went live. I had a errant mustache hair that was tickling my lips. So I went upstairs to trim it. And she was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth and getting ready for bed or whatever. So she's, calling it a night and saying goodnight to her while I'm coming down here preparing to get my evening started. So we definitely have like reverse schedules. We say, hello to each other in passing. I won't see her again until tomorrow afternoon when she gets home from work, because she leaves for work at like 5 in the morning or 5:15. And I certainly, if I'm up, it'll be because I'm still up. I certainly won't be up at that point. I've always been more of a night owl than a morning person. Zini lives in his own little Xeniverse. Depending on which day he wakes up, he may or may not be in any one of the various Xeniverses he lives in. Unlike having a bunch of different universes that all have their own Zini, it's just one Zini to go around, and he has to move from universe to universe. He's never sure which one he's in. Zini does have godlike powers, though. I actually talked about his godlike powers the other day, although I didn't phrase it that way. But he certainly has a slew of devoted followers. And having a slew of devoted followers makes you godlike, in my opinion. What are you saying there, Eugene? Big honking tanks with like 5 or 7. So few, and they're not going to get big like the Oscars. I'm the one and only. Look at my handle. Or my @ I am the one and only. I actually chose that as my @ deliberately because there are other Daniel Hite out there, which fucking blew me away. I knew there was a Daniel Hite from history. Somewhere, I don't know who he was or anything. I think he was in the Civil War or something out in Western Maryland. But that was, Civil War era. But I think there are currently other Daniel Hite living in the world, which again just kind of freaks me out because I don't know who the hell they are, and yet they have my name. So when I did my when I was setting up my YouTube channel, I did Dan Hite one and only, because I'm the fucking real one. The real Dan Hite, please stand up. Does anybody remember that? That's a callback for you from back in the day. 5 or 7 fish. I think fish stores, when they set up their display tanks like that, a lot of fish stores will do just that. They'll have a very low stocking density and a large tank. And I think that's simply for maintenance purposes and keeping the tank looking pin sharp and clean. It also allows the customer to imagine what kind of fish they'd like to see in that tank. It's almost like the few fish they put in there, just like examples, like, look, you could have these kind of fish in this tank if you wanted. It's not really meant to be an actual community tank. It's meant for sales purposes. And so there's got to be a reason why they do it that way. I personally, I always say that when I added fish to my tank, I put them in there so you need a crowbar and a stick of butter to get another fish in. I've actually calmed down quite a bit on my stocking density as heavily stocked as my tanks are. They used to be even worse than they are now. But you just start, running into all kinds of issues when you have overstocked tanks. It's just too much bioload. You can overdo it with a tank where the tank just can't keep up with it and it gets gunky and, too much waste products. And of course, overcrowding with the fish stresses the fish out. So there are limits, but I still do like a fully stocked tank. And there's probably people that could argue that my tanks, some of them are overstocked. Some of that has to do with, again, being a fish keeper extraordinaire like myself. The fish just live for years and years and years, and they get big. The tank didn't seem like it was going to be overstocked when I put all those fish in there, but now that they're all the size of dinner plates, it looks a little different. Janice, damn it, Janice. Zini, the reference did you get? Was that the "Will the real Dan Heiteshew please stand up"? Is that the reference you got? Because that's an old ass American TV show. I'd be really surprised if you knew that one. Every other day fish keeping. Exactly. It's cozy. I like that. I don't think of my tanks as being overstocked. But again, what is the actual, who gets to decide that? The inch of fish per gallon of water is a fucking stupid rule. I understand why it exists, but it's really dumb and pointless. I think of my tanks as being heavily stocked, but I don't think of them as being overstocked. So I always just refer to my tanks as being very heavily stocked. But cozy works too. And I definitely, again, we can have a conversation about like who gets to decide and, what is too much and what are the reasons it's too much. Because again, you can have a tank that's overstocked because you have too many territorial fish in it and it's just not compatible. Or you can have a tank that's overstocked because you simply have too big a fish in it and they can't, live comfortably in the small tank that they're in. Or you could have a tank that's overstocked because it's got too many fish in it and they're just too crowded together. So there's a lot of reasons you could call a tank overstocked. And I think my only condition that would classify as overstocked, if somebody wanted to argue, is the quantity of fish. I tend to keep good communities that aren't aggressive, and when I do find aggressive fish, I separate them. And so most of my fish get along well enough, and the communities gel. But again, when you look at my other 125, it's got a lot of fucking fish in there, and then some of them are pretty significant. I've got a foot long pleco. I got two large cichlids. The silver dollars are not small fish. So that tank is heavily stocked. Plus, I got a variety of other smaller fish in there, in addition to the several large ones. So that's probably my most heavily bioloaded tank. Or possibly my fancy goldfish tank. It's only a 40, but it has 3 pretty large goldfish in it. So that would probably be a pretty significant bioload. I'm still going to go with my 125 though. Bioload for bioload. I think my 125 is probably still more overly stocked. All right, where was I? Thank you, Dade. Yeah, buying a bunch of fish that fill the tank and only to 3 years later all the offspring and whatnot are in there too. That's definitely another way to end up with an inadvertently overstocked tank that you did not plan on. New York Manhattan Aquarium. I've never been to that. I've been to Manhattan a couple times, but I've never been in the aquarium. I was there on working, making deliveries. Yeah, guppy tanks can tend to get overstocked quickly for the very reasons I was just saying about the breeding. Oh no, it's not a Slim Shady reference, Zini. Slim Shady was making a reference to that old TV show. Um, I honestly I can't even remember the name of the TV show, but the contestant would have to guess who a person was, and there would be three people sitting in front of them, and they got to ask them questions about their life and so on and so forth, and then they had to guess. Like I think the one in the middle is the real, Bob Smith. And when they'd made their selection or whatever, the host of the show would say, "Would the real Bob Smith please stand up?" And then whoever it really was would stand up, and everybody would clap or whatever. Weird show, again, 1970s television game show. But that's what that references to, and that will the real Slim Shady please stand up is a reference to that game show from back in the day. So you were on the right track. To tell the truth, okay, that's yeah. I could not remember the name of it to save my life. I honestly don't know if I ever even knew the name of it. Oh, how can you not be a fan of guppies? Guppies are awesome. Steve, 33 months. Wow. What's your line? No, that's not it, but that's another game show of that same era. Reverentially challenged. Well, again, Zini, I'm making references to 1970s American cultural things. I'm not really expecting you to get those references. Hold on, let me check. I suspect I just got an email, and I suspect I know who it's from. And he's probably telling me the name of that game show. Yeah, yeah. It's Tim was telling me it's To Tell the Truth. Yeah, again, weird TV show. I have vague memories of watching it when I was home sick from school. Um, And the only real British references I make, and I can make plenty of them, I do all the time when I talk about bucket versus bouquet and all that. Those are, I grew up watching British television on Maryland Public Television, showed a ton of BBC stuff. So I grew up watching all bunch of, probably not all, obviously, but tons of old sitcoms, Are You Being Served? And To the Manor Born, Faulty Towers. I grew up watching Faulty Towers, one of the greatest fucking comedy shows ever written. Is Faulty Towers. I grew up watching that kind of stuff. But back then you had three channels, and when Dad was watching TV, you watched whatever Dad watched. And my dad watched Masterpiece Theater and Nova, and he watched all these different shows on Maryland Public Television, and a lot of it was BBC stuff. So I grew up not only watching the old comedies like Are You Being Served and whatnot, or Keeping Up Appearances, but I also watched a bunch of Shakespeare shit, on Masterpiece Theater that we would always have to watch every Friday night or Sunday night, or Sunday night. Masterpiece Theater came on. So I grew up with a lot of British influences. My two favorite authors are both British. So I can make tons of British references. The only problem with them is that they're also going to be from the 70s and 80s, decades before you were born. So I don't know if you would actually get them or not. And how can you not be a fan of guppies? Guppies are awesome. Dad's Army. I want to say it sounds vaguely familiar, but I do not actually know what that is. Was it like one of those family sitcom shows? Sort of like Eight is Enough or something, where it was a big family. Am I getting that right, or am I just making this up as I go along? Yeah, we had snow last night and early this morning. My wife gets up on Sunday and does her weekly, gets all her grocery shopping for her lunches and stuff done. And she said it was pouring down snow when she went out this morning. Like it was just piling up on her car while she was driving. It came and went really fast. By the time I woke up at like 9:30, there was just a little dusting on the ground, and that went away once the sun was shining on it. But we've already had snow, and then they're calling for 1 to 3 inches tomorrow night. So I got to go get my Annapolis, all that day done. That's still from the end of November. So I'm going to go out on Monday tomorrow, and I'm going to date all my tickets November 30th. I ought to do it date them November 32nd or something stupid like that. But I am going to just date them as, as far as I'm concerned. I still sprayed you in the last week of November. I'm still coming back at the end of December. So if we're supposed to get snow tomorrow night, I don't know. I guess I'll spray them anyway. Fuck it. As long as the shit dries on there, it'll be okay. All I can say is that as much as I hate winter and hate snow, I'm really, really hoping for a really, really harsh, snowy winter this year. The deer population in this state is out of fucking control. I spray deer repellent for a living, and you'd think that would be a good thing for me in my business, but it's so out of control. I don't have magic deer repellent. I have stuff that makes the food taste nasty. But when the deer are starving, they'll eat whatever they've got to eat, whether it tastes nasty or not. And so I still have customers that get a lot of damage, and the deer population is just absolutely out of control, and we don't really have any effective means of addressing that. That's a whole different video. I'm not even going to get into. But one way of Mother Nature addressing that is a really, really harsh winter will, thin the population significantly. So cross our fingers. The other thing that does it is if we have a really, really late spring, like it's still really bitter cold and snowy all the way through March, by then they're barely hanging on, and they're in need of that new early spring growth. And if it's a couple of weeks late, they may not make it until that new spring growth comes out. So that's my other hope, is that we have a very late spring. That something's got to give. Like we've got to do something about this, deer population in this state. It's insane. Not very cheerful, I know, but that's reality. Still working on this joint. All right, let me. Looks like we're whirligigging. I don't know if you guys are whirligigging or not, but I am on my tablet here. Yeah, we had drizzle, and it was just a nasty, crappy day today. Mission Impossible and The Fugitive. I never watched a lot of shows like that when I was young. I've never seen The Fugitive, either the movie or the television show. Dad's Army. I'll have to look into that. That's not ringing a bell with me at all. Yeah, I can't afford a harsh winter either. When it's tons of snow and freezing cold and all that stuff, I can't spray. I spray liquid deer repellent. So, technically I can spray on really windy days, which tomorrow is going to be, but it sucks. And it's so wasteful. Like I lose so much of my repellent to it just blowing away before I can even get it onto the plants I need to spray it. I have to hold the wand like an inch away, and it's just way more time consuming, and I'm showered in the stuff by the time I come home. I absolutely reek of deer repellent. So I hate spraying on windy days, but I can do it. If it's below freezing, I just can't spray. I can't, spray ice and stuff and freeze stuff onto the plants. It's got to be on there like a liquid and then dry. And then obviously if it's any kind of precipitation, if it's snowing or raining or whatever, that's just going to wash the repellent off before it has a chance to dry. And so I can't spray on those days either. So I'm definitely limited to only being able to go out on, reasonable days. So that harsh winter will hurt me too. But we need it. Oh yeah, we get deer on our property all the time. For years we were good, but my yard, the way it's so shaded, like we have tons of shade loving plants like hostas and daylilies. seed them. We have a veritable all-you-can-eat buffet. We got like an acre of gardens that the deer, it's just full of shit that the deer like year-round. We got a lot of winter plants as well as summer foods. And so about 2 years ago, it started getting bad enough around here that I had to start spraying my own property, and it sucks because I got a way bigger property than any of my customers do when it comes to what I have to spray. It takes me like 2 full sprayer packs to spray in the summertime. This time of year, I only hit the critical stuff like the azaleas and hydrangeas, and most everything else has died back. We have a couple of rhododendrons I have to spray, but it's not bad through the winter. In the summertime, though, I go through a shit ton of repellent. But if I don't, the deer fuck our gardens up. So basically, I'm my own customer. And it's weird because, again, I live out where I live, but it makes sense when you stop and think about it. Most of my customers are in fairly urban areas. They're on the edge of the city or they're right up against the reservoir. I've got a bunch of customers down in Catonsville and Annapolis, and these are not areas where you would think there'd be a lot of deer. But when you look at a map, you can see there's a lot of green areas all over the place. So even in those urban areas, I mean, you can literally drive around the Beltway around Washington, D.C. and see deer standing on the side of the road grazing, just ignoring the traffic. I saw that a decade ago. I can't imagine what it's like down there now. So the deer are everywhere. But if you live in an area where I do, which is exurban, we're not quite rural, but we're definitely not suburban either. I live out in the sticks, sort of. There's woods and farms, and there's a lot of natural habitat and natural forage, and there's places for the deer to be that isn't my backyard. You get into Catonsville, they don't have all those places. They have to go feed in people's yards and whatnot. So it makes sense that I never really had problems out here where I live, but it's getting so bad that even I have to go spray my property every month because our gardens will get tore up. So that's how bad it's getting. Is out here we're starting to get deer damage. The upshot to that might be I could do some local advertising around the neighborhood and maybe get some customers that I didn't have to drive an hour and a fucking half to get to. That would be all right. Drive 2 miles away and hit a neighborhood. That'd be cool. I spend far more time driving than I do actually spraying. I'll drive for an hour, get to a customer and spray for 15 minutes and then drive for an hour home. All right, let's look at the 29 here for a few minutes. At some point, we will bolster the population of this tank, but not yet. Got a couple of fish in there I'm waiting to die off, or at least one. I think the tetra's already gone. I mean, the black skirt tetra, I think, is already gone. And so all we got left is that one red-blue Colombian. And when that red-blue Colombian is gone, that'll open the tank up for me to put another. It'll probably be just another school, or probably 2 small schools of some kind of tetras. Maybe I'll do some neons in that tank. Maybe we'll try them in there, do a little school of neons, and then a school of, some other kind of tetra. I'll have to look around and see what's available. Don't know if I'm going to be driving all the way down to Glen Burnie. Again, that's like an hour drive for me to get down to House of Tropicals, or I can go about 18 minutes and I'm at PetSmart. So we'll see what happens. And right now, money-wise, I can't really be spending any money on any damn thing. All right, let me see where I was. Well, it depends on where you are, Janice, as far as the wintry prediction. Yeah, Harrison Ford was in the Fugitive movie. Yeah, whenever I come home like that, I'd straight downstairs and the clothes go right in the wash. Well, first of all, I don't have the size property to hunt on. And secondly, I'm not into killing stuff, so I'm not really going to be shooting and hunting and whatnot. Well, I pay myself with the satisfaction of being able to enjoy the gardens without seeing them destroyed by deer. But no, I do joke with my wife because technically I always say this is my house or whatever, just because I'm doing my live stream or whatever. But this is my wife's house. My name's not on anything. And so this is my wife's house. It's my wife's property. It's my wife's gardens. I just live here. So I always joke with her after I get done spraying that, do you have any idea how much I would actually charge you or how much money you owe me now for doing that? Like, seriously, if I have one customer, my highest paying customer, only pays me during the summer. They don't have enough stuff on the property that the deer eat in the winter to justify me spraying there. But in the summer, I charge them $225 to spray. I'm there for maybe 20 minutes, and it takes me about 3 gallons of repellent to spray them, and I make $225. So here it takes me half an hour to spray. I've got to fill my sprayer pack up, go back and pick up where I left off. I go through about 8 gallons of repellent. And so if I was an actual customer and I was giving myself an estimate for this property, I would probably start in the neighborhood of $400. Maybe 450 and see what they said, see if they blanched at 450. And then they could maybe talk me down to 400 or something. So yeah, I should start charging my wife. That's a good idea. Yeah, the deer are getting bold. That is for sure. Yeah, I've got a bunch of customers over by Loch Raven, Steve. Nobody up in White Marsh, thank God. Emperors would definitely look good in there. That's for sure. Now, Bambi was okay. Oh, if they're going to pick at the Angel, then I'm definitely going to stay away from that. Um, I was looking at the African clawed frogs the last time I was in PetSmart. There was a couple people there looking at them and talking about them, so I interjected and gave them my 2 cents on it, being that I've got some experience with them. Um, so it's not out of the question. I don't know if we even have to get tags for private property. The company I used to work for that gave me the idea to do this, they were a bunch of fucking idiots, and I figured if they could make money at it, I'm just going to go do this for myself and stop working for them. Um, but they had three divisions. They did what I did, which was spray. They also had hunters that would charge $50 a head to take deer off the property, and then they had a fence building division. And I didn't pay too much attention to the hunting. Like I said, I'm not into killing stuff or whatever. Um, but my assumption was that they just sat on the property and just took as many deer as they could get in a day. They would go to golf courses and they would stay out there until the golf course opened, and they might take 30 head of deer off a golf course in a morning between 3 or 4 guys. And so I was always under the impression that if it's private property, you shoot as many fucking deer as you want if they're in your yard. It's only out in the public hunting areas that you actually have to get tags for the deers you kill. But again, I don't really pay attention to it because I don't care about it. So when I don't care about stuff, I don't really invest any thought or time into it. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it, and current hunting practices actually reinforces it. 37 years, holy shit. We watched a little fawn that was in our yard get separated from its family once, and for the next several days, we had to watch a little fawn starved to death, and we finally found it dead in the road at the bottom of our driveway one morning. So yeah, it's not fun to watch, but that's, that's how the world goes sometimes. Well, I got a limited amount of thought and time and things to do, and so I don't waste it on stuff I'm not interested. Now, that's not to say I don't waste it on dumb shit. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I spend all my time reading philosophy or, whatever. I waste tons of time on really dumb shit, but it's dumb shit I care about. I watch, the same Doctor Who episode, that I've seen a million times, but I still enjoy the hell out of watching it. It's just my way of, it's almost like mental comfort food, the mashed potatoes and gravy of entertainment. So I'm not trying to pretend that I don't waste a lot of time looking at pointless stuff, but the stuff that I'm not interested in, whatever it is, I just don't spend my time, thinking about it or looking into it if it's not something I'm interested in. So don't know a whole lot about the whole hunting laws and regulations and whatnot. I do think they could probably change those laws quite a bit to help with the deer population. They seem to be still fairly restrictive, as though we don't have an overpopulation problem. People still can only kill, a couple deer and that sort of thing. You get one buck and, 2 does or something like that. I think there should be a bounty on them, and it should all be does. You shouldn't be allowed more than 1 buck. And another problem with the hunting is, the hunters aren't going out there to clear out the weak and the sick. They're going out there looking for that big buck with the big rack on it, and they're taking the prime genetics, out of the breeding pool and leaving behind all the smaller, weaker ones, because who wants those as a trophy? The hunters that are out there aren't sustenance hunting, they're trophy hunting. And if they use the meat afterwards, that's fine, but that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want that big fucking buck. They're fine-tuned cleaning out all of the best genetics out of the area. So again, it's just, there's a lot, everything. There are no simple bumper sticker solutions to anything in the fucking world. There are. But most things there's not. Most things are a lot more nuanced and complicated and layered and everything else. And the deer overpopulation is a many, where not only is hunting becoming culturally less relevant, but there's less and less places to do it as urban expansion. Not only are we encroaching into their environment, but as we encroach into their environment, that leaves less and less area for people to hunt in. It's there's a lot going on with the deer issue. No simple solutions. Which is what brings me all the way back to the harsh winter. As unpleasant as it is, like, that's just nature being nature. It's like, that will solve a lot of the problem, and nobody will have to make any decisions about it. It'll just happen. Well, I don't necessarily watch the same one over and over again. I do have a pretty big variety of different Doctor Who episodes, but there are no extant episodes that I haven't seen before. Like every single, even like the Lost episodes, I've seen all of the Lost episodes. There's some I don't watch because I'm not too fond of them. Again, the original Doctor, the really early episodes, they're kind of hard to watch sometimes. But there's a ton of them out there that I really enjoy. There's some of my favorites. I tend to watch those more often than others. So I do mix it up. I don't just watch the same episode over and over and over again. Pretty close. I may as well. I can, I don't even have to watch. I can just go along with the words in my head. Let's see. Masturbation and gravy. I'll get back to you on that. Just think, we didn't even have a Thanksgiving dinner this year, so no, I don't even have any leftover gravy in the refrigerator. Biscuits and gravy. Sausage gravy is the best fucking gravy. There you go, Mike. Biscuits and gravy is the best thing ever. I did watch a video. My friend Tim sent me a video. It was the British kids trying American Thanksgiving dinner for the first time, and I've talked about those videos before, and it was the same group of kids that I've seen eat other stuff. And watching them eat the American Thanksgiving dinner was it was about what I expected. They often frequently mentioned how sweet everything was. The two things I found most amusing about it was I think there was 3 different items that the kids were eating, and they couldn't believe how good they were. Like Brussels sprouts, I remember specifically was one of them, and then the green bean casserole was another. And when they thought of Brussels sprouts, they were like they're crispy and they have flavor, and we always just boil them. And like these had been roasted and they were covered in like butter, and they've been roasted with the buttery outside and the seasoning and everything. They actually even looked really good, and I'm not a Brussels sprouts fan. And then the other one was the green bean casserole, which again, it's green beans with mushroom soup mixed in with it, and then you bake it, and right before it's done being baked for 30 minutes or whatever, you sprinkle French's dried onions all over the top, and then you bake that until they brown and get all nice and crispy, and it sort of bakes to the surface. So when you eat it, you get this mix of like smooth, creamy mushroom soup, and then you also get the firmness of the green beans, but then you get that crispy, crunchy onion flavor with it, and it's just fantastic. I love green bean casserole. My wife makes a mean green bean casserole. Not that they're complicated. Anyway, when the kids were eating them, they were blown away by that, because when they think of green beans, we just boil them. I was thinking, do they fucking just boil all their food? Like, is just getting it hot the point to them? Like, as long as you get it up to a safe food temperature, you just eat it after that. I thought that was kind of funny, how many things that they'd never thought about cooking in some other way besides boiling it. And then the other part of it that was the best for me is, see if you can guess the one and only thing in the entire meal that nobody really liked. A couple of kids tried to be polite about it, but nobody really liked it. Because I've said this for years, because I don't fucking like it either. And that, of course, is the pumpkin pie. Nobody liked the pumpkin pie. I got a text message here. Let's see who it's from. Oh, that's right. It's from my mom. She said hello back. So I used to eat pumpkin pie every year, like most Americans do around Thanksgiving. And it was always just, it's what you do this time of year. I don't like pumpkin pie, but I will have a slice. I usually smothered it in, Ready Whip. It was funny. One of the kids did almost immediately figure out how to properly use a can of Ready Whip, which is to throw your head back, hold the can upside down, and squirt it directly into your mouth. He figured that out fast. But that's how I would eat pumpkin pie. So I couldn't taste the pumpkin pie. I just got a mouthful of Ready Whip with a little bit of pumpkin pie in each bite of it. And I don't know, about 10 years ago, I just why do I fucking do this? I don't like pumpkin pie. I don't like pumpkin anything. I don't like pumpkin latte. I don't want to eat pumpkin ice cream. I don't like pumpkin. Now, I'll grant you, pumpkin pie has more of the spices to it. Like when you think of pumpkin lattes and stuff, it's more about the nutmeg and all the stuff that goes into a pumpkin pie. It doesn't have so much of that pumpkin flavor, but I just don't like that pumpkin pie flavor. So it was interesting that none of them did either. I think most people probably don't. They just pretend they do. All right, let me get caught up again. My mushrooms have definitely kicked in, I realized as I was ranting about pumpkin pie. Yeah, Zini, you'll be in seventh heaven if you ever eat American, real biscuits and gravy with sausage gravy. You'll feel your heart clogging up while you do it, but it's worth it. TK, how are you? Turkey carcass soup. That's probably pretty good, actually. It sounds weird, but it's probably delicious. All those flavors in there. Yeah, he tends to hang out in the other corner for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's darker, but they always come out when the food is in the face, or they usually come out when the food is in the face. I'm reading and talking at the same time. When the food's in the tank, pumpkin pie is gross. Well, it's not gross, but I don't like it. Oh, look at all these people lying and saying they like pumpkin pie. Nobody likes pumpkin pie. Oh, look, there's another one. They didn't have the sweet potato pie, but they did have the sweet potatoes, which actually has mashed potatoes on top of that. I also think that's gross. I don't like sweet potatoes at all. And then to smother them in marshmallow fluff or whatever, melted marshmallows on top of sweet ass sweet potatoes. It's gross. But I've never had sweet potato pie. They did have they called it pecan pie. We call it pecan pie, but they call it pecan pie. They all thought that the pecan pie was the best. Like they just all fucking fell out of their chairs at the pecan pie, which I also don't like. I don't like pecans. I'm a very, very picky eater, you could say. But look at all these people saying they like pumpkin pie. I don't believe it. They actually did like the cranberry sauce, but they also utilized the cranberry sauce properly. They didn't just eat the cranberry sauce. They used a little bit of it and spread some on the turkey. They mixed a little in with their mashed potatoes. It was definitely interesting watching them sort of discover that you can mix and match the foods and you didn't have to just eat one of one thing. You could stir some green beans in with your mashed potatoes, and like that opened up a whole new world of possibilities to them. And they were talking about, all the different, layers that you'd go through as you were chewing through it. And it was definitely an experience for them. I would imagine just eating food that has flavor in it would be a wild, shocking experience to your average British kid. A country where beans on toast is cuisine. Oh, look at all. I'm so outnumbered on this pumpkin pie thing. Oh, that would actually be really good, Steve. My mom did the can of jellied cranberry sauce, and so she would just like when I was a kid, I never knew what the fuck it was. Like, um, my mom would just open the can and just slide the whole fucking thing out, so there was just like a can-shaped red thing that was all jelly and weird on a plate and on the table. And my dad loved it. He would slice it like it was lunch meat, or he'd cut half-inch thick slabs off of it and then just eat it like it was a food in its own right. And I tried it like that, and of course it was really sour and just what the fuck is this? It's like some weird jelly. Again, I don't like. I'm a texture guy. I don't like Jello. I don't like anything jellied like that. I don't like gummies. And so as a kid, I was just like, I don't know what this shit is, but fuck that. That's nasty. Um, Real actual homemade cranberry sauce would probably be pretty good. And then again, as I said, as I got older, I learned how to properly eat cranberry sauce, and I actually will enjoy a little bit of it now. But you put a little bit of it in with your potatoes or something. You don't just eat the fucking cranberry sauce like my dad did. So yeah, I can do the cranberry sauce, but it's got to be done properly. Cheesecake is actually a pie. All right. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you all on the can being nasty, jellied, weird fucking fish and chips. Nice. Put some vinegar on it. I always joke with Zany that salt and pepper are actually considered spices over there. Well, curry is not necessarily, I don't think a curry is being, that's like saying Chinese food is a staple here in America. It is, but I don't think of that as American cuisine, even though our Chinese food is definitely Americanized Chinese food. And I'm sure the curry they eat in the UK is UKized, curry. But still, I don't think of curry as being a British food. I know it's, they flock to it because it has flavor and it's not their food. That's the reason it's so popular over there, is because it's the one thing that does have flavor. You're Britons, Zini. You guys steal everything. Yeah, I don't know exactly what people mean when they say curry. I don't know. Is it like couscous with curry mixed in with it? That's what I've always assumed. You're clearly not eating a bowl of curry. Curry is just a spice you add to some other kind of food. If you ate a bowl of curry, you're fucking insane. I mean, it's a really, really strong spice, like a little half of a teaspoon in a whole bowl full of, a whole batch of anything would be a good amount of curry flavoring. So I'm assuming it's curried something, and I always just assumed it was couscous. Neil, no, I can't stand Jello. Kraut and corn in your potatoes. That sounds good. I don't like sauerkraut, but I can see how that would be a really good combination. The sweetness of the corn, the smooth creaminess of the potatoes mixed with a little sour from the kraut. Bob. Red Skull. You could just call him Schmidt. All right, let me get caught up. I'm gonna come over there and sit down in a minute. Deep fried discus. They're fish and chips all in one. Yeah, the air fried guppies. Salt them up. All right, let me actually, you know what? Let's have a look at my mushroom bag. I said we were going to do that earlier, and I just saw Rosie's name pop up, so I know you're still here. So let's get you back here a little bit out of the way. We'll get my light set up for me so I don't forget. Now I'm probably going to donk my head when I come back in. All right. So on Friday night, we looked at my mushroom bag, and it had a little bit of mycelium growing across the front. And if we looked at the bottom of the bag, we could see some spots of white across the bottom. And so I mixed it up, not completely thoroughly. I just spread it around a little to get it, into more places. And as it develops, we're going to continue doing that until it's in all the places. But tonight, we're actually looking pretty good. So you can see there's moisture on the bag, but if you look through the moisture, you can see all that white on the surface. That's all mycelium. And the bottom, all that whiteness you can see over there, that's mycelium. There's some growing in there. But this side of the bag hasn't even been touched or mixed up or anything yet. So I think that's enough with what's growing on the surface and growing all through it that we can mix that around a little more tonight. Oh yeah, now that I'm mixing it up, I can see white material all through there. So there's a lot of mycelium in it. Usually by the time you can see it at the surface, it means there's a lot of it mixed in, through the center of it. This spot here is actually kind of chunky. So this should be my final. Oh yeah, there's another big chunk in the middle. I can't tell if it's just a chunk of substrate or it's actually a chunk of mycelium. But this should spread it through the bag enough and mix all of the grains and the dirt and everything is all going to be mixed together. Now that'll be my final mixing. I will just leave this to sit for maybe 2 weeks, and after maybe 10 days or 2 weeks, that'll be just a cake. It'll be just completely full of mycelium, and I can actually already smell it. So it's definitely got plenty going. Once it's completely caked over, we'll start the fruiting process. And I like this bag better than the other one. The original bag I got was really like tightly vacuum sealed. So like when you get a bag of coffee that's vacuum sealed, imagine having to mix that around inside the bag. Like there's no room for anything to move anywhere because it was like packed together. That's the way the first bag was. It's really difficult to mix that stuff around. Whereas this bag, it is sealed, so there's no fresh oxygen is going to get in there. That's the secret. You got to let the mycelium grow in an oxygen-free environment. So the bags come sealed, and you don't open them until you're ready to start fruiting them. But this bag actually, I don't know if it's nitrogen gas or just a little bit of air, a little bit of oxygen in there will get used up so quickly that it'll quickly be an oxygen-free environment. But there's space. You saw how easily I could just move that stuff around, and so that made it a hell of a lot easier to mix up. So we should be good to go. Now it's just a matter of waiting and letting it fill in, and then we can start flowering it or fruiting it, whatever you want to say, and working on our next batch. All right, let me see where I was. All right, Mike, if you're still there, I'll say good night. Yeah, my wife makes a really good green bean casserole. I'll eat the shit out of that. All right. That's a mushroom bag, Janice. I got some mycelium growing. I'm starting my next batch. So if you missed it earlier, my original bag that I got all those mushrooms from, I thought was done. I was actually going to throw it away tonight. I was going to show it to everybody and show you what the end process looks like, and then chuck it in the garbage. But when I checked it this afternoon, I got another mushroom coming out of it. So I assume this one will be the last, but I kind of thought that about the last one too. So who knows? But we're definitely going to get at least one more mushroom out of that original bag. So next Friday, I'll probably be showing you what the dead husk of it looks like. But it'll be some point when I'll definitely show it to you before I throw it away. But as long as it's still producing mushrooms, I'm just going to leave it in there. And so we got one more coming. I'm excited about that. They don't get huge. Let me see if I can find a picture. I posted pictures on Discord. I know you don't do the Discord there, Janice. So somewhere in my photos, I've probably got pictures of a harvest. See if I can find them. They're going to be way the fuck back here. Let's see. There's a picture. I know you don't really get scale in that, but that's the last one I got was that big. And that's maybe 5 inches tall. The cap was about that big around. Let's see. That's about what it looked like when it was dried. So with my hand there, that gives you a pretty good sense of scale. And my first batch that I got was huge. I'll have to scroll back a little ways to find that, but we're in the neighborhood. All right, that's the second batch. So let's go all the way back here a little further. I have one picture where I have the whole thing laid out on my washing machine, and I have my hand next to it for scale, and that'll give you a better idea of how many mushrooms I got out of that one batch. It's got to be back here somewhere. Oh, there we go. There's some. Oh, no, that's the second batch there, third batch. I still got to go back even further. I've gotten so many mushrooms out of this bag. I can't believe it. God damn, I take a lot of pictures of dumb shit. Most of them I send to Zini, though. Poor Zini. I was looking at all this shit that I've sent them. Oh, there we go. There's what they look like. That's a batch in my dehydrator, so that gives you an idea of quantity. There we go. That's the picture I was looking for. So that was my first batch of mushrooms that I got out of that bag. And this one I'm talking about today is now the sixth batch. Now, I'll grant you, the fifth one was only a single mushroom. The fourth one was only 6 mushrooms. The third one was maybe 8 or 10 mushrooms. But that first one, again, that's a lot of fucking mushrooms. That dried out to be almost 40 grams of mushrooms or something, and from the first batch. Those, of course, were the ones I ruined. I over that whole entire batch, every single one of them. That's garbage. They all got thrown away. I dried. That's the batch I dried like way too hot. So even though I got over 3 ounces of mushrooms, the majority of them I didn't even eat because I ruined them. But I still got, maybe an ounce of used mushrooms, that I was able to actually enjoy out of it. Oh well, live and learn. Let me see where I was. I don't know how long any shrimp in that tank would last. I don't think the tetras would eat, full grown shrimp, but the angelfish and the discus would certainly try to eat the full grown shrimp. I don't know. It's worth a try throwing a handful in there, even if just a few of them live. I mean, it's something. They do tear that cyanobacteria up. So that's something we can give a shot. Why are the discus hiding? The discus always hide when I sit here in front of. Well, they don't always, but they often hide when I sit here in front of the tank after they're done eating, of course. I'm still enjoying what I think of as carnival barf. It's tonight. I topped it off with half. What did I use? I think I used half of the cotton candy and half banana. The banana is the only one I have that's the 30 mil, but I have 3 other flavors that are 55. And so I usually mix it. So I'm somewhere in between the 30, which I don't think is enough, and the 55, which is too strong. Um, but I don't, drain it all the way down and then put a fresh thing on and then refill it with the flavor. I just keep adding to what's in there and just topping it off. And so it's carnival barf. It just tastes like every sweet smell you would smell at a carnival with extra sweetness mixed in. It tastes a little bit like cotton candy. There's some watermelon, strawberry, banana, French vanilla. It's delicious. Actually, I think it tastes. Bleh, I don't. It's way too sweet, but it does provide me with nicotine, so that's awesome. All right, Dade. Thanks for hanging out. And it's too late. I would show you that giant ass plant I got going on in the other room, but the lights are already out, so we'll wait and we'll see that next week. It's not due to be cut down till around the 10th of December, so it's still got almost 2 weeks to go. before it's done. Again, the hairs haven't even started turning brown on it yet, so we got time to see that one. But it's like I still can't. I go in there and look at it 3 times a day just to stare at its immensity. It's the hugest fucking bud I've grown in so long, and it's on such a small plant. It's amazing looking. Brought a whole cup of coffee down here, and I didn't even drink it, and now it's way too late, but I'm going to have a final swig of it, and then we're going to put this away. All right, we're going to have 2 swigs of it. Let me see if I can show you my little mushroom I got growing. You'll also get a good look at what the dead-ass mycelium looks like. All right, say hello to Uma, everybody. The lights are already out for the day. I get 12 and 12 on my mushrooms too. But if you look all the way down in that far back corner, you can see that one little mushroom sticking out. And then you can kind of see in the middle where I cut that wedge out, how it just looks like sawdust in there. It was weird looking in the middle. But right down there, I do have that one little mushroom sticking out. So I'm going to get at least one more out of that. Let me put my clips back on. I keep it open, but I put a clip on there to keep it, open like that. I want air to be able to move through there, but I don't want it wide open because that'll dry it out too quickly. It is a mushroom after all. It needs to be moist in there. I mist it down a couple times a day with a spray bottle. All right, come on, get on in there. I donked my head already. I usually don't donk my head until I get back up in the first position there. Damn it, I was just going to say something to Steve while Steve was still here, and I lost it already. Oh, Steve asked me about the mushrooms, the mushroom chocolate bar that I ate tonight, because it is the new and improved 50% stronger mushroom bar. You know, the treehouse mushroom chocolates I always talk about? Well, they made them stronger, and they're noticeably stronger. They really are. I used to have to eat like 6 or 7 squares to feel the way I do now, which was kind of a bummer because there's only 15 squares in the whole bar. And so I'd have to eat like, I'm so tempted to do a 6-7 gag right now, but I'm not going to. I'd have to eat like 7 squares and then 8 squares, or, it was never an even amount. I couldn't get 3 good experiences out of it. It was either 1 small one and 2 decent ones. But they're strong enough now that 5 pieces, which is a third of the bar, is perfect. And so I get 3 solid, 5 square experiences out of it now. So I'm really happy that they bumped up the strength of it, and it is definitely noticeable. I feel like I've ate like 7 squares of it at this point. Blueberry, raspberry, lemon. That actually sounds pretty good. Well, I don't top it off. All right, Janice, we will see you on Wednesday, maybe. I don't top it off until it's getting really low. I don't let it go to where I'm going to be drying out the wick or anything. But when it's down to like that much, I'll top it off. And I usually don't remember what I had in there the last time, and it doesn't really matter at that point. So I fill it about halfway up with one of the 55s, and then I top it off with the 30, and then I move the bubble all around and mix it all up or whatever. And of course, the wick has had so many different flavors go through it at this point. Like it just tastes like carnival barf to me. It's just this sweet carnival-y sort of. I think of it as like tutti frutti. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling that mushroom bar. This is all right. It's been about an hour and a half. That's usually when it's like fully on to me, as about an hour and a half after I ate it. And I ate it at like 10 of 8 right before we went live. So this is all right. I really do like that chocolate bar a lot. After getting used to eating real mushrooms for a while, it's, for the price, this doesn't really cut it. I think I'm probably going to cancel the subscription, especially once my new batch starts coming in. But I really do enjoy this a lot. If it wasn't as expensive as it is, I'd I'd probably keep the subscription going. I am going to get one more batch of the syrup for old time's sakes, and then after I get one more batch of syrup, I'll cancel the subscription. But I like the syrup better than the chocolate bars. I still do. The chocolate bars are just a little more affordable, but it's good stuff. I do like it. Cornish. Are you still getting the gummies, or did you get a chocolate bar? I don't know if they bumped up the strength of the gummies. I know they bumped up the strength of the chocolate bar, but I don't know about the syrup or the gummies. I guess we could look it up and find out. Let's see. Yes, treehouse gummies are known for being strong due to their potent cannabinoids. That's let me put mushroom in there. It's searching. Treehouse mushroom gummies are legal. Blah blah blah. No, it's not giving me anything about the gummies being stronger. When I looked up, is the treehouse chocolate bar stronger? It came up saying yes, it's now 50% stronger, et cetera, but it doesn't say anything about the gummies. Let me do that one more time. It changed my search and did it search the way it wanted to search. Okay, treehouse mushroom gummies are designed to be potent, and the brand has introduced a new extra strength formula that is 50% stronger. So yes, the gummies are stronger too, apparently. You probably already told me that. But now I looked it up for myself, so I know for sure because the AI told me, and that's never, ever wrong. Red Ed, how are you doing? Well, the syrup was always referred to as high potency syrup, and I don't think the chocolate bars were called high potency chocolate bars. The syrup was a lot more expensive than the chocolate bars, but you also got a lot more doses. You got 23 doses out of a bottle of syrup, whereas you only get 15 doses from a chocolate bar. So I assume that's where the price difference really came from, is you just get more of the syrup. I never thought about it being stronger, though. I thought 1 teaspoon of syrup was the same as 1 square of chocolate. But maybe the syrup was stronger. I know I like the syrup a lot better. It definitely had a lot more of a quick onset. I don't know. I like the syrup better than I like the chocolate bar. But again, I've never had the gummies because I think gummies are disgusting, and so I'm not going to eat them. Neurotonin. I don't know what the neurotonin is. I don't know if I'm master of any of them, but I certainly dabble. Let me see. We are all caught up. I think I am going to get up into first positions just because I'm feeling antsy and I want to stand up, and I don't have anything else really on my mind to talk about. At least not not that I think would be a good topic. But then again, once the mushrooms really start kicking in, I tend to talk about things I probably shouldn't. Let me see how I'm supposed to put this camera. I'm supposed to put it like that, but higher. And in a little while, we can turn on or turn off the big lights, and we can just do some disco ball action until that makes me feel feel unpleasant. All right, what am I gonna smoke? Let's fire up this roach again. Well, it's like a half a joint at this point. Oh, speaking of joints, I watched a video tonight that I did want to talk about. Um, okay, I won't, Art. I don't worry about shit like that. I was thinking about that today. If somebody on the live stream were to ever tell me something like, "Oh, dude, I was on somebody else's live stream the other day, and these people were talking shit about you or something," I wouldn't even ask them what they said because I just don't care. So if you did post some funny pictures of me or whatever, that's fine. I don't care about that either. I'm not going to bother to look. Um, the syrup, I don't know if the syrup is more potent or it just comes on faster. It seems to me that it just like the chocolate is a much more gradual ride, but I feel like the peak is kind of at the same place. It just takes longer to get there, whereas the mushroom is a much more steeper climb. You just get to the peak a lot quicker, and then on the backside, you just start dropping off a lot faster too. With the mushroom, it just sort of almost seems to wear off all at once, whereas the chocolate is a much slower descent. But I watched a video tonight about smoking weed, just fucking around right before I went live, looking at some last minute things. And it was an old man, and it was like cannabis for seniors or something like that was the channel name. And the title of it was, should you hold your breath when you take your hit? And I've said for years, because I have people on my channel all the time that give me shit about not holding it in when I do a hit, because I do a hit and then I pause for a moment and then I blow it out, which is how it works. Like holding it in does not help. It doesn't, you don't get extra THC or anything else. All you're doing is keeping that shit in your lungs longer. So more stuff gets in your lungs. You inhale it, you pause for a moment, and you exhale it. And that's your hit. And that's exactly what the guy said in this video. Now, I'll grant you, he was only saying that based on his own experience, just like myself. I don't know the science behind it. But long ago, doing my own experimenting, I came to realize you just don't get higher by holding it in longer. But when you're doing smoke, especially, holding it into your lungs, like I've known people that would hold it in till they almost passed out, and then when they breathed out, like no smoke came out. Like where do you think that smoke went? All that tar, all that ash, all that stuff is just in their lungs now. They didn't get any extra THC. They just kept all that smoke in their lungs for all that time until it was all in their lungs. And that's just terrible. Like do your hit, hold it for pause for a moment, second or two, and then exhale it, and you're done. You got it. Like that. And then he also said that if you are going to smoke the flower, that doing it through water filtration is the healthiest way to do it, which I've also known forever. So I didn't actually learn anything from that video, but it was nice to hear somebody else saying that, because I get a lot of people telling me I'm not doing it right. I'm smoking weed longer than most of you been alive. Don't tell me I'm not doing it right. All right, that was my little rant about weed. What next? We got about 25 minutes left to fill. I know one thing I can fill it with, and that's a swig of my iced tea. I think I'll save that little roach for later. If we smoke anything else, I can do a dab. Because I got old man lungs. Speaking of old man, I'm going to be 54 years old in 2.5 hours, Well, technically about 9.5 hours. I was born at 7:30 in the morning, but December 1st, tomorrow is my birthday, and I will be 54 years old. All right. Did you tag me in them? Let me see. I got some notifications here. I'm going to check while I'm standing here. I don't think there are any notifications. Oh, okay, that was response to that. Let's see there. Got some new picture somewhere. Where are we going here with this? I really hate Discord. And general, there we go. There's where the notification is. Let's see. That doesn't even look like me. Oh, no, that looks like me. Got all kind of good stuff. Oh, that's fucking awesome. You know how many times I've thought about buying some wigs, just some cheap ass wigs? No, I don't have any birthday plans. Let's see. That's one picture of me, which I think is awesome, but they get better. That's actually, I used to part my hair on the left, and it didn't look, the other side was swooshed back a little more. It didn't come forward like that, but that's actually what my hair used to look like. I think we'll go to this one next just because it's silly. I think that's pretty good. This one, I think this one is my favorite. It's fucking fantastic. But that's not the last one. But that is good. That's my favorite by far. But this one's pretty funny too. The one with the long hair. That is absolutely. I'm gonna have to show these to my wife. Not only does it looks like I haven't had a shower in 5 days. I feel like my shirt should be a lot dirtier and grubbier than that. That was awesome. Yeah, I started out with the long hair, and then I took a series of photos where I went upstairs and shaved a little bit of it, and I came back down and I did something different, and then and so yeah, those were all 100% real pictures of me. That's exactly what I look like with long hair. No, Bob, I don't have any birthday plans. I barely even remember when it happens. It's just something I make a note of. If I had thought about it, I could have saved my last pieces of chocolate bar for tomorrow or something. But again, I'm just thinking about it as my Annapolis day. It's just Monday. It's not whatever. Like I say, but I do make a mental note of it, and it is a passing of another year. I am now 54 years old, and that sort of thing. But that's about it. I might spend a little time tomorrow reflecting on the last year and how much I've, learned or changed or things that have happened, something like that. I might use it to have some thoughtful time. But that's about all I ever do with a birthday, despite being obviously a party guy. Maybe I'll get myself a little cake. All right, everybody, what next? Can I think of any good stories to tell you before we go? I will say I had another funny little moment where I just have to laugh at myself for being an idiot. Not an idiot, but just kind of like if you remember me talking the other day about Zini and, just realizing the other day that he has an English accent or whatever. It's not that had just occurred to me, but it just occurred to me sort of at that moment, and it just kind of made me laugh, etc. This was another one of those moments. Hang on a minute. Let me wet my whistle. So I told you all Friday that they posted another Key to Time series, Doctor Who episode I was looking forward to, etc. Well, they did, and I'm delighted to say they posted the next one on Saturday. So I've actually only got 2 Key to Time series left, and I'll have the whole complete set. But when I watched it the other night, I was excited going into it, and I couldn't remember the story from the title. It's been a long time since I've watched the Key to Time series, but I've watched the whole series. Like, I know the whole story arc, and I know the story. I've seen it a bunch of times over the years. But when I watched it the other night, because I wasn't able to put the story to the title, I was going into it thinking, like, this is something I don't know. I'm going to see this new Doctor Who. And so as soon as I started watching it, I was like, oh, I remember this one. And I was like, well, no shit, dude. Of course you fucking remember this one. You remember all of them. It just, I had to laugh at myself for like, what was I expecting? Was I expecting to not remember this one when I started watching it? But apparently I was, because I had a little moment of disappointment thinking, oh, it's this one. I remember this one. It's an okay episode. I still enjoyed it, but still I had that little moment of letdown that it wasn't going to be some new experience for me from a Doctor Who episode that I've seen 100 times. Well, maybe not that many, but you get the idea. I don't know how my brain works. All right. I do actually have something in my vacuum chamber I want to check, and I'll let you guys look at it with me. I took all of my old trimmings and leaf, and if you'll remember, I had those plants that I grew out in the yard that were real spindly, and they kind of got me by for a little while, but as soon as I had something better, I was done with those. So I mashed all of that up into a huge bucket full of weed, and then spent the afternoon refining it down. And I still need to check the consistency, and it's probably going to need another heating cycle and vacuum cycle, but that is what I got out of it. That's all hash oil. So that's a lot. Let me get my dab tool, give it a little stir, and see what kind of consistency we got. When it's done, I should be able to just peel that out in one big sheet or something similar to that. I don't think it's going to come out quite like that. No, it's still pretty gooey, so that'll definitely need another heating and vacuum cycle. But that gives you a little better idea how much is actually in there when you can see it getting stirred around. So that's all. It's fairly low grade. It's nothing I'm going to actually vape or smoke or anything. This will just go into a batch of cookies. But that's all low grade hash oil that I got from that stuff. So it's worth saving the trimmings and whatnot, the little popcorn buds and little crap that I don't feel like dealing with when I'm manicuring it. It all just goes into a box, and I save it till it dries out, and then I do that with it. Yeah, that would be awesome if I had a little erase button after watching an episode. I could just erase it and pretend I'd never seen it before, and then just watch it again the next day. The way my memory is so bad that I'm always forgetting stuff, and I'm always asking my wife about things I've already asked her 20 times or whatever. So the running joke with us is that everything is just always new for me. That's it keeps life interesting because everything is always new, no matter what. No matter what, I've forgotten about it. And I drive through down Main Street that I drive on every day, and I'll ask about, like, is that flashing light, like, is that yellow flashing light new? And my wife will sigh, and she's like, "No, that's been there since we've lived here," or "No, they put that in 15 years ago," or I do this shit all the fucking time. I see something that I just never noticed before, and I'm like, "Is that new?" No, that's always been there. Oh, there you go, Art. So, I all I did was glance at the thing. I don't know if you sent any other additional information with it, but I did see that the notification said that it was supposed to arrive on Saturday. So if it shows up early, we will have an unboxing next Friday. Ark sent me some stuff and asked me to undo, open it live. So if it does show up by Friday, we'll do that Friday night. And if it shows up on Saturday, like it's scheduled, then we'll do that next Sunday. Have a little unboxing, and we'll see what is in there. Okay, that's what I thought. It was just the tracking info. I was doing something else upstairs in the office, and I saw the notification, so I just looked at it real quick, and I figured I'd be chatting with you tonight. So I'd, if there was any additional information, you could just tell me. All right. Let's actually, I didn't feed it, so I got to do that anyway. But let's go have a little look at the shrimp tank that we're talking about. So I'm always getting a little bit of cloudy water in here, but it's otherwise a really cool looking tank. I got some really neat looking woodwork in there. The plants are probably going to be needing some trimming soon. That is crypt, and you see how big it gets in my other tank. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time before it outgrows this 5-gallon. But I got a really nice rock in there, several little small pieces of wood on the bottom. But it definitely needs more biofiltration. So Ark sent me some, I don't know everything he sent me, but including what he sent me is going to be some various sized small sponge filters. And I'm 100% positive if we put a sponge filter in there, it might take a little bit of time for the filter to cycle in and start functioning. But once we've got a functioning sponge filter in there, I think that tank is going to clear right up and is actually going to be a really nice looking little tank. I'm excited about that. So we'll see. I've been waiting for it to clear up on itself, but I always preach patience and let the tank do its thing. It'll sort itself out. But I've done that. I've been patient. We've waited, and it's not sorting itself out. And as I was saying earlier, you can have a tank that has more stock in it than the tank is capable of handling filtration wise, biologically. And therefore, you have to make adjustments to that. And so I gave this tank time to sort itself out. It's clearly not. So at this point, I do believe that it just needs more biological filtration. So that'll be my next step to getting that cloudy water out of there. But we've been waiting for what, 2 months, 3 months, something like that, for that tank to clear out. It just got cloudy one day and just never has cleared up. It's clearer. It seems like it's clearing, but it's not there. And I just don't think it's ever really going to get there. So that sponge filter should fix that problem. So we'll find out. That'll be my next step into seeing what the hell's going on in there. And again, I'm very confident that this is going to be the solution. So, all right, everybody, we're starting to wind down. We got about 10 minutes left. So whatever last thoughts you got, questions, comments, you want to get me started on some other topic, I'll be happy to go on about. I did watch a video about a dead whale that sent me off on a whole different train of thought. That's the thing I'm itching to talk about, but really my better judgment's telling me I probably shouldn't, because I don't want to get off on some stupid fucking completely unrelated topic where I bitch about stupid people. I was thinking about stupid people tonight too. I don't really want to get into a discussion about that either. I still have not gone through my first bottle of this THC vape liquid. I still have 6 unopened bottles, plus the one I'm still working on with this one. So I'm going to be puffing on this stuff for fucking ever. And I will take a moment for anybody watching that's new or just hanging out listening. If you're not already aware, I do have a members area. If you want to join a membership, you'll get an extra live stream every week. We do a members only live stream on Wednesdays, and you'll also get access to the Discord server and badges, emojis, and stuff like that. But you will get a third live stream if you enjoyed the night. You'll have one on Wednesdays that's members only. And then, of course, you'll get access to the Discord server, which has a bunch of stuff going on over there, including some amazing pictures of me. I loved the one of me as a cat in the driver's seat of my truck. I'm going to have to steal that one. That one was awesome. There's a couple in there that did not look like me at all, though, so that was kind of weird. The ones that Ark sent tonight, though, with the hair were fucking fantastic. I have wondered about that. Being a public figure, having a bajillion hours of my face and video and voice and everything out there, there's more than enough material out there for somebody to scrape and do a complete AI live stream, of me. You could do a full 2-hour live stream that was AI generated, and I bet a lot of people would fall for it as being a real live stream. So I know they do. I've seen that done with podcasts I watch. Something doesn't quite seem right about it, and the name of the channel was wrong. And I found out that like there's somebody out there that's doing AI. They're taking this guy that does a lot of podcasting, just creating a complete AI podcast of him and putting it out there because it's a popular podcast, and a lot of people just don't realize they're not looking at his podcast. They just click on it because they see the thumbnail or whatever. And so I already experienced a lot of the whole, it's one thing to take a picture of me and put funny hair on it or whatever, but at this point you could do an entire I probably shouldn't be putting the idea in people's heads, but you could do that at this point. You could generate an entire 2-hour live stream. Oh yeah, I've got a ton of airline, and if not, I can get airline up at the Walmart for $1.50 or $2 or whatever it is for a little tube. That's no big deal. I'll do something with air tube. Killing myself here. All right, everybody. Don't look like I'm getting too many last thoughts or comments. Let me clean up a few things. I'll give you your last call. Ooh, I forgot I have my diesel heater running all night. I had it pointing into this room instead of where we were tonight. And so it is toasty in here. It is 25.3 degrees. That's like 76-ish or something like that. So, all right, everybody. It looks like we're winding down. So let me get the lights turned out. We'll get to enjoy some disco ball action for a few minutes. Woo! All right, everybody. This is your last opportunity. Otherwise, somebody just gave me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out if you did enjoy yourself tonight. I know there's not many of you left at this point. All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth and one of my back teeth and a couple other teeth that are missing. I got a terrible, terrible inside of my mouth. I'd love to get that fixed for Christmas. Either that or find out Santa Claus is really real. That would be awesome. All right, everybody. I think we're close enough to 2 hours. There's no rule saying I have to go the full 2 hours, and it seems like we're done with the comments and stuff. I've given y'all more than enough time to say goodnight or what have you. So now we're going to wrap it up and say goodnight. Remember, everybody, if you're not a member and you'd like to be, $2.99 a month, and I will see you on Wednesday at the members only live stream. If you do join, of course, if you're already joined, I'll see you as usual. Otherwise, everybody else, I will see you all next Friday. So long, and thanks for all the fish. All right, everybody. Good night.